Hello friends, we are meeting once again this evening to discuss this particular topic, authority and surrender. And as usual, before we can begin, I would like to do the Mangalacharan and then move to the discussion on this particular topic. Om Om Yo Brahmanam Vidadhati Purvam यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै ब्रह्मदेवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशम् मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। ॐ नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्मविद्या सम्प्रदायकर्तृभ्यो वंशऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। सर्वोपप्लवरहितः प्रज्ञानघनः प्रत्यगर्थो ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि। वेदान्तार्थविभासकाय गुरवे शान्ताय सन्न्यासिने नानावादीनगेन्द्रसङ्घपवये योगीन्द्रवन्द्याय च मोहध्वान्तदिवाकराय भगवत्पादाभिधां बिभ्रते तस्मै भाष्यकृते नमोऽस्तु सततं पूर्णाय बोधात्मने। The word surrender seems to occupy a lot of space in the spiritual literature, and we find this word resonating across all the major religions, teachings, and even philosophies. Right from Buddhism, we have Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami, Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. The Sharanagati or the surrender to these three entities, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, are told. Whether it is the Islam or even the Sikh religion, which seems to be the most late in the newest in the history of religions. I'm sorry, the light cannot sustain for more. We may have to continue like this. Nevertheless, so we have various religions various teachers in different parts of the world at different times talking about surrender. And this is the reason why the word surrender seems to be such an important concept in all the literature, spiritual literature of the world. And therefore we need to verify its presence, its meaning, its implication in the context of Vedanta. And I must tell you that the word surrender and the word authority are not two opposites. They are just two sides of the same coin. When we say authority, then that authority demands presence of someone over whom that authority rules. And when we say surrender, it demands a presence of an authority to whom the surrender is offered, or to whom the person surrenders. Therefore, both these words are sapeksha. They are relative, and they are relative to each other. Authority and surrender. We do not have much time to discuss the stories of surrender and the authorities of prophets and teachers. I have to tell you something very important. When we speak about surrender, the general understanding, the general attitude of submissiveness is there. And when we talk about authority, it conveys a sense of governance, of obedience, demanding obedience. And both these things have been glorified beyond limit. Obedience is glorified beyond limit. The authority is glorified beyond limit. Somewhere they are going to say that submissiveness means giving up, surrendering your will, surrendering your questioning mind, surrendering your thinking, independent thinking, that you will simply follow what that authority tells. And that authority cannot be questioned because that authority is so absolute. It cannot be questioned. And I must tell you that questioning is the very first sign of our development, of our growth. The question means that we have found something that we do not know. Not knowing is ignorance. And that ignorance will go away only with knowledge. But You will be inclined to the knowledge only if you are going to question, because this is the only way how knowledge can be ushered in. And therefore we have the very first sutra of the Brahma Sutra saying Athato Brahma Jijnasa, the very desire to know what Brahman is. It is a jijnasa. You have already questioned over there, what is Brahma? Kim tat Brahma? What is it knowing which one can become absolutely free? This is the question. And therefore, when the spiritual teachers and leaders take it for granted and demand an absolute surrender, actually they are doing more harm than doing anything good. It is because when they say that simply believe in the authority, believing in authority unquestionably means depriving you from questioning, depriving you from the very way how knowledge could be brought in, taking you away from the path of knowledge. Now, if this happened anywhere else, it could have had been an issue. But when it comes to spiritual matters, people are going to say, no, nothing. There has to be surrender. Surrender of your will, surrender of your intelligence, surrender your mind. And they use several terms. Surrender your ego. I really want to ask, what is the meaning of all that they are saying? What do you mean by surrendering the mind, and what do you mean by surrendering the ego? What do you mean by surrendering the intelligence, surrendering your intellect? What is that? What do you mean by this? In a way, all these sentences, if they do not have a justified meaning to deliver, then they are all just noises and nothing more. Because any statement or any sentences, any sound that does not have any meaning, then is belonging to the category of noise. Therefore, all this will become noise. And if it is not so, then we need to ask what is the meaning. And if it is not just meaningless, then perhaps the implied meaning is that the person who is saying is simply asking, imploring that he should be accepted as an authority. His supremacy, his superiority should be accepted by others. Because he is superior, others simply have to take what he says. They have to follow. And this followership is glorified. You will be surprised that in the Upanishad, even before a person can question what this Brahma is, we come across the very condition, description of this condition when a person goes to the teacher. When the person goes to the teacher, he goes to the teacher only when he has observed the whole world, only when he has observed the phenomena of what he can get from the world and what is it that he cannot truly get. Pariksha lokan karmachitan brahmanaha nirvedamayad. Says that Pariksha, having observed, having understood, then only does he go to the teacher. Pariksha lokan karmachitan brahmanaha nirvedamayad. And then it is only then that he goes to the teacher. So friends, the way authority and the way this word surrender has been spoken about, which seems to be a very alluring proposal in spirituality, really is a grossly misunderstood. Of course, there is teacher and disciple relationship. Of course, there is surrender. And of course, there is authority. There is an authority. But not the way it has always been understood. In fact, what is understood is a misunderstanding then of understanding. And I am therefore going to explain to you the Sanskrit word, which is the original word for which these words have been used to give an expression in other languages. In the teacher and disciple relationship, on the most common grounds, you will see that it simply means that the teacher is transferring the knowledge, that what he knows, to the student. When the student is ready to receive, the teacher simply becomes the channel from where the knowledge can pass, and the student's mind becomes the receptacle in which the knowledge can rest. And all this process happens with the help of words. The teacher speaks, he explains, and whatever is then explained should be understood. This is the way transfer of knowledge takes place. But in Vedanta, there is going to be something more. And over here you need to be little more alert. Because Vedanta is a pramana. Pramana means the word will be either translated as authority, or the word will be translated as a proof. It is not proof nor authority. The word pramanam means pramayaha karanam. It is simply the means, an appropriate means of knowledge. We have several means of knowledges. We have pratyaksha pramana, which is the direct perception. We have inference, which is anumana pramana. I'm not going to go into all of those, but I will simply make this point so that you will understand what is the relationship of a teacher and disciple. What is the role of these words, authority and surrender, when it comes to Vedanta? If it is not understood, we are going to reduce it to the sense where it cripples a human being than empowering him. Because when a person surrenders his intelligence, the person has stopped questioning. And when a person stops questioning, the person stops growing. And when a person has stopped growing, that what was most important to a person now has slipped away. That what is most important in life is extinguished. And therefore those words, those ideas, those concepts, surrender of will, surrender of intelligence, surrendering the mind, surrendering yourself, surrender the ego, all those words are simply deceptive. They really do not convey anything that is close to Vedanta, that is really close to spirituality. And it is only perpetuation of people from whom the independent thinking is taken away. It is a deprived state of humanity. Therefore, not that, but we have to look at something that is truly important about these words. That something is extremely poignant when it comes to spirituality. Because you can say anything and it can be sold, it can be marketed, it can be used under the garb of spirituality. We have this word authority, which is very often used in Vedanta in several translations. But the word authority is a very feeble translation, a very feeble replacement to the word pramana. Because in the transfer of knowledge, when a person goes to the teacher, he has gone to the teacher finding that whatever the karma has to offer is, he is not looking for that what the karma is going to offer, because the karma has got only three things that it can offer: putra, vitta and loka. These are the only three things that karma can bring as its result. There is nothing more than that. Putra means progeny. You can bring pleasures of life, progeny, finding love, all such things under this one heading, putra. Wealth, aggrandizing wealth, properties, security, emotional security, financial security, securities of various kinds are all under the heading of vitta. And if somebody is still wanting to have a place, a better life even after the death, securing a position in heaven, that is loka, some celestial world, loka. So these are the only three things which karma can give to anyone. The person keeps himself engaged in karma because he has known only one thing, and that is karma is the only means that he has to interact with the world, to fulfill his desires, to fulfill his ambitions, to find fulfillment of life. He has got karma as his only means. But there is a paradigm shift in his thinking, because he has found that whatever karma can give is only just these three. You were looking for fulfillment, but neither the meaning of word putra is fulfillment, neither the meaning of the word wealth is fulfillment, neither the meaning of the word reaching heaven is fulfillment. No. And therefore now he says, karma chitan, I have observed what the karma can bring. I have observed all the results that karma can give, whether it is swarga, whether it is putra, or whether it is vitta. But I need that fulfillment which is unconditional. I want that fulfillment which is not going to be limited in time, by space, by any object. I want total annihilation of dukkham completely. I want that sukham which is not limited, limitlessly. And karma cannot therefore give me this. And hence, how can I achieve that what is truly desired by me? This is what is truly desired by everyone. Absolute negation of dukkham and attainment of total joy, limitless happiness is what is desired by everyone, whether it is a man or a woman, rich or poor, literate or illiterate. Everyone desires simply this, and that is the only thing which we keep on missing throughout the life. And therefore this person says, where am I going to find it? Here, mind you, there is a question, where, how am I going to find that what is the true purpose of my life? Where can I find that fulfillment? And therefore he goes to the teacher, asking what is it that will bring me that fulfillment? And the teacher says, knowing Brahman, knowing that self, knowing Parameshwara, one goes beyond every form of dukkham, every form of shoka, misery. Is washed away. Every suffering is washed away. So of course, there is, now he finds, I would want to know Brahman. You want to know Brahman, and therefore now where can I have that knowledge of Brahman? How can I have the knowledge of Brahman? Now comes the question of knowledge of Brahman. How can this knowledge of Brahman be had? How can this knowledge of Supreme Self, Parameshwara, be had? Because every knowledge which you have takes place through appropriate means. And if you do not have those means of knowing, then that knowledge is not going to take place. You have eyes, and therefore you have the knowledge of colors and forms. You have ears, and therefore you have the knowledge of sounds. We have various faculties, and those faculties are the appropriate means of knowing. And therefore those knowledges are possible. What is the means through which Brahman can be known? And therefore now comes the question, what is that means? And if those means are there with you, the knowledge of Brahman will take place. And knowing Brahman means finding that total fulfillment. Knowledge of Brahman means, knowing that Brahman means attainment of the ultimate Purushartha, Moksha Purushartha. Therefore, what is it that truly happens? In the discourse between the teacher and the student, the Guru and Shishya, is that the teacher transfers to him not knowledge, but teacher really transfers, gives him the means of knowledge. If you have the means of knowledge, the knowledge will take place. When you have the eyes, the knowledge of colors and forms is bound to take place. There is no other way that you have eyes and the knowledge of colors and forms does not take place. And therefore, whenever the knowledge of colors and forms is taking place, when you open the eyes, which means if the eyes are open and there is adequate light, the knowledge of colors and forms, the experience of colors and forms is bound to take place. No one can stop it. The will has got no role in it. The will has got no role in it, and therefore there is no will present over here. I'm going to come back to this point once again, but before we turn back to this point, please understand that this is what happens between the teacher and the student. The teacher speaks, and through those words, the appropriate means of knowing are acquired. A person gets these, the means of knowing. The pramana is acquired. When the Shruti pramana, the Shabda pramana, the pramana is there. Pramayaha karanam pramanam. When that pramanam is there with you, the knowledge is going to take place. What is it that you want to know? You want to know Brahman. And for knowing Brahman, the direct perception is not the means. The inference is not the means to know Brahman. What is the means that you have? There is only one means, and it is the Upanishad Pramanam. Vedanto Nama Upanishad Pramanam. This, therefore, between the teacher and the student, this is what is taking place. The teacher, through his words, is only giving him those eyes through which the student can see Parameshwara. And therefore, over here, the meaning of word surrender is not that you should never question. The meaning of word surrender is not that surrender your ego and do not ever question. In fact, you will have to proceed through this path of questioning. If something is said and you are not able to understand, if something is said and whatever is said is found contradicted by some other experience or knowledge of yours, then there is going to be a question, and that question that needs to be resolved. those people who are saying an authority and surrender, that one should never ever question, but simply do what the teacher is saying, they are nothing but creating a master and a slave. They are simply creating an intellectual slavery. That means a person should lose his independent thinking and simply become a beast of orders, that somebody else will give you orders and you follow that. Nowhere is this the meaning of word surrender in Vedanta. Nowhere is this meaning of authority in Vedanta. In Vedanta, the word authority, which is translated, which is substituted for pramanam, and pramanam is not some sort of authority. Pramanam is simply the means of knowing. And therefore, he who has now approached the teacher, let him sit at the feet of the teacher and acquire these means. Having had those means, having had those eyes, let him see what is Parameshwara, knowing which there remains nothing more to be known, knowing which, seeing which there remains nothing more to be seen. And therefore, this is the attainment of ultimate Purushartha. This is what is spoken, this is what is meant. Nowhere is that pathological idea of simply creating an individual, a human being, who is now only a robo who can take orders. No, this is not the meaning of word surrender, nor is this the meaning of word authority, at least in Vedanta. So having made this thing clear, now I want to bring your attention to one more point before we can close this discussion. And that is, when people talk about surrender of will as spirituality, do you see this? Why do you want to surrender the will? Why do you feel like wanting to surrender the will? The one who is going to surrender the will, he wills to surrender. And therefore the person who is willing still stays back. Where is the surrender of the will that you are saying that happens? Nowhere. Nowhere. In fact, there is only one place where the will has no role to play, and that is in the process of knowledge. The will has no role to play. So then, if at all in anyone's definition, surrender of will is the true form of surrender, then friends, it is only here. It is only here in the process of knowledge. That will is totally redundant. What is required is only the means of knowledge. And when those means of knowledge operate, knowledge is had. Will has got no role, has got no position over there. Therefore, it is, even when they are talking about surrender of will, the surrender of will is not surrendering to the will of God. Then the God is the only one who wills. And our question is, why does that God will that way? And they do not have a justified reason. Well then, I'm not going to come heavily upon those people who have got that kind of a philosophy to preach. But I must tell you that it is only in the process of knowledge that there is surrender which takes place. And therefore, when Sri Krishna says, Mamekam Sharanam Vraja, Bhagwan Shankaracharya unhesitatingly says it means know me. It does not mean that come on, keep following some person called as Sri Krishna, an historical figure. There is no fanaticism about it. It is purely a matter of telling you that it is a process of knowledge. It is the process of knowledge. And therefore, friends, these perverted meanings of the words surrender, authority, the ultimate authority, the greatest power, all these things are nothing but people's ambitions ambushed as their spiritual leadership. What is the meaning of Guru-shishya relationship, in which the Shvetashvatara Upanishad says that yes, a teacher is someone who is to be worshipped as Ishvara. What is the meaning of that? It is a different issue. But as of now, surrender takes place only over here. And the word authority has got no meaning other than pramana. And the pramana over here is only Upanishad. Thus, when you acquire the knowledge of Upanishad, the pramana Upanishad, through the words of teacher, what you truly are acquiring is only the eyes through which Parameshwara is beheld. Friends, I will stop at this point. I have made it clear to the best of my ability in saying that the word authority and surrender do not convey anywhere a crippling effect on the human intelligence, at least not in Vedanta. It should not happen, because this is not what Vedanta intends to bring to you. If there be any questions, I would be glad to discuss. If there aren't any, then we can do the Shanti part and meet any other in the further webinars that we may have. Yes, please. Yes, I can see someone raising a question. Krish, please.
Hari Om Swami. So, what is
Hari Om, Krish.
Hari Om. What is commonly understood to be surrender by people like me sitting out far away is not necessarily surrender of intellect, but surrender of decision making in a sense that simplifies life to the extent that the intellect becomes sharper. I don't know how to explain this, but the mind is full of so many details. Surrender to me says, get rid of all those details, leave them at the feet of someone else, and focus the intellect sharp. That makes the intellect sharp, the mind. I think you understand what I mean. That's my question.
Yeah. When you are saying that you have too much of information, which means that information is not categorized, it means that the information is so conflicting that you are not able to draw a conclusion out of it. And therefore, let us not draw the conclusion. Not drawing the conclusion, then do you think is surrender? Do you think this is surrenderance? And the reason why we are into these conflicts is because, moreover, we find sometimes that there are things which we know are right, and against it is our self-interest. And it is because of various conflicting desires that we are left into this quagmire of confusion. How do you say, how can one say that the confusion will be resolved not by finding a way out of confusion? Please tell me.
So
It may give you a temporary relief, but it cannot take you out of that confusion.
and the reason I spoke up was the temporary relief is what you need so the intellect can focus on the real question. That is my thought.
If this is what you say, that a little temporary relief is required, then we would say it's fine. There should not be any problem. But if you are going to make this as the ultimate philosophy, then there is a problem. Because if one is going to think that the first aid is the only medicine that I require, then there is a problem. Yes, if for some little time you are going to find a relief, whether you go to a church, you go to a mosque, you go to a temple, it's fine. But if you are going to say relief means only going to the temple and going to the mosque, then there is a problem. There is a problem of dependence. There is a problem of not looking what really is the problem. You see this? If it helps you to look at what the real problem is, then yes, it is a spiritual exercise. If it takes you away from that, then it is not at all. Yeah, Krish, thank you. Yeah, there's some question here. Yes, Mr. Ganti, A.R. Ganti, I do not know who you are, but you have a question, please. Yes.
The typed question, Swamiji.
They have typed the question.
Yeah, you can click on that question mark and you will get the type.
Okay. Is it fair to say that the surrender to the will of God and the surrender to the pramana are one and the same? How do you know what is the will of God? How would you know what is the will of God? And will means that there is a certain uh, desire, there is a certain desire, and a person who desires a particular course of action, that is called as the will. So God desires a particular course of action, and to surrender to that will of God, which means if God desires certain course of action, our first question is going to be, why should God desire? Why should God desire? Then you are going to say that the God desires because the God wants to do good to you. The question is then, why in the first place the God allowed something bad to happen to me now that he wants to rectify and do good? So this will, surrender to the will of God, is an issue which is so tender that you put a pointer, you put a finger on it, and it will start hurting people. What is it that the God wishes? Will is a form of desire, a form of wish. What is it that the God wishes? If God wishes something, then why does it not happen? Why do you have to say that my will is coming in between God's wish? If God is all powerful and something that is all powerful, omniscient, omnipotent is God, then how does my wish, my will, come and stand in between God's wish and will? It may be a good philosophy, it could be a nice form of compensation for a person who is still not willing to think, who is not yet ready to think. For him, you can tell that yes, there is will of God, and you surrender yourself to the will of God. You keep on doing your work, and God, without desiring anything, without desiring the fruit of that action, that is the surrender to the will of God. That person who is not yet ready to question, he finds quite a relief in this philosophy. And yes, we are going to say if he finds a relief, and if that relief is not going to put him, sedate him, but if that relief is going to make him more alert on this path, to come closer and question one day, what is this God to whom I have been praying, then it is going to be a process of awakening. Then we can accept it. But if it is accepted as commonly in several other religious philosophies, will of God, God wishes you to do something, go and commit several heinous crimes because God wants you to do that, then it is quite difficult. Because you are doing it since you want to stay in the good books of God. You are going to, you want to do several things even if those are atrocities. But just because God wills you to do that, that's why it is a very difficult thing. Hence, surrender to the will of God. If it gives you a little relief, and if it brings you closer to question the fact, who is this God to whom I want to surrender? Who is this God to whom I offer my devotion, I offer my heart? Kim tad Brahma, If this question comes to you, then that whole process has been a very fruitful exercise. Or else, if it sedates and puts you away, then it has become a very dangerous philosophy. Yes, please. Anything else? I think we Vibhaji,
Yes, Pranam Swamiji.
Pranam Vibhaji. Can we close the webinar because no more questions I see?
I think Ranjanji is asking, his hand is raised. If you don't mind, you
Okay,
can.
sir. Sure, sure. Yes, please, Ranjanji.
Hari Om Swamiji. It was a good webinar again. I had
Thank
a
you.
question about so where does faith and like how does faith and surrender compare among like faith towards a guru or faith towards your religion or and faith towards that ultimate like authority that you can say God or something and how does faith and surrender
How does faith and surrender? I couldn't hear you quite clearly, sir.
yeah, so how does faith and surrender compare in this question towards towards authority actually, like for example the guru or the
That
God or
is, Ranjanji, this is what exactly I have been trying to say. It is not an ultimate authority which demands your obedience. It is not an authority which demands your obedience, your slavery. It is not that authority, or it is not that kind of an authority. This is not what is intended by the whole idea of surrender, number one. Number two, you are talking about faith. We have a word called Shraddha for faith, and that is more technical and more appropriate than just using the word faith. The word Shraddha means Shastreshu Guru Vakyeshu Satya Buddhyavadharana Sa Shraddha Kathita Sadbhihi Yaya Vastupalabhyate. That it is a Satya Buddhi. It means that for example, when the Shastra says that Atma is Brahman, you may not immediately understand it, you may not immediately see it, you may have several doubts about it, but you say that yes, since it is said by the Shastra, since this is what is intended by the Shastra, it has to be true. I have doubts, but I have to resolve those doubts. There are several contradictions, and I have to find out if these contradictions are true or are those contradictions not true. Now you are ready to weigh it against all the information that you have. On one hand, all your life's experience has been telling you that you are not Brahman, but you are Karta Bhokta Jiva. You are the doer, you are the experiencer. And here comes Shruti and the teacher and says that you are Brahman. And therefore, what is said by the Shastra, what is said by the Shruti, and what you have with you, they are in contradiction with each other, in conflict. Now in this conflict, when you are going to say, come on, drop that Shastra, drop all that, because it is not correct, then then this is called as lack of Shraddha. The word Shraddha means Saddhate iti Shraddha. That which is able to hold the truth is called as Shraddha.
Yeah.
So this is what is Shraddha. And when you are saying that, yes, we require faith, we require to have faith as somebody is a in teacher in the Shastra, yes, we require to have faith, but we require to have faith which means what is said by the Shastra, that what is said by the teacher is true.
Yeah.
That is all what is required.
Yeah.
Otherwise, faith will become fanaticism.
Right.
Otherwise, that faith will become a very antagonistic to life.
Yes, definitely.
All right, sir.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. We have one
Perhaps
more question.
yes.
There is one more question. Given
Yeah,
Guru-shishya Sampradayam is an effective way to learn the means, to acquire the means, Anubhava about Brahman, how can you find the right Guru? It is based on Guru's oratory, resume, charisma, or others. Please do not worry about finding the right Guru. There are two things. One, I will just quickly say this, and maybe this question could be a topic for our next discussion when we meet. Shrotriyam Brahmanishtham. These are the two words. Shrotriyam means he who comes from the tradition of that learning. Those who are without tradition is how do we know that whether a person is simply talking out of his hat or he has something truly to give, to deliver? Therefore, that what comes from the Sampradaya, Bhagavan Shankaracharya writes in one place, Asampradayavit Panditopi Murkhavat Upekshaniyaha. Bhagavan Bhashyakara, Bhagavan Shankaracharya writes in his Bhashyam this particular line, and it is a very, very potent line because Bhagavan Shankaracharya does not use very strong words anytime. But over here he seems to be using really very strong words, but not like Anya Bhashyakaras, but he really, in his most sophisticated, most beautiful way, he says, he who is asampradayavit, he who does not have the parampara of Guru Parampara, such a person, Panditopi, he may be a great orator, he could be Panditahapi, he could be someone who can charm you with his oratory skills. Yet, asampradayavit murkhavat upekshaniyaha. He should be ignored like a madman talking, like an unmatta pralapa. That is what Bhashyakara writes over there. All right. Thank you, Gandhiji. Okay, is it fair
I'm
to
sorry.
say? Yes, yes.
It is
All
very
right.
nice.
Yeah.
We'll wait for another webinar from you.
Thank you, Vibhaji. And my thanks to everyone over there, as well as kindly convey my pranams to Swamiji. And Reddyji, maybe we should talk about it some other time. Thank you all, and Hari Om. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnaat Purnamudachyate पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Thank you.
Ram Swamin.
Ram Raju.